Hi, I'm Li Ling, and I'm the first Singaporean woman to have swum across the English Channel, and this is why you should listen to me.
So Li Ling, you've recently become the first Singaporean woman to swim across the English Channel. How hard was the crossing?
It was physically, it was a challenge for sure, but I think mentally that was probably harder. And then the other really tough part mentally was just near the end when I knew that I was not really going to hit my target and I wasn't sure if I was going to land, but actually I did in the end, which was great. So yeah, it was a big relief and obviously very happy to have done it.
What were the conditions like? Like how cold was it? What were the major obstacles you were talking about? Maybe mentally, it was tougher than physically. And was there any point that you were really worried you weren't going to make it? Because you were in the water for just under 13 hours, I understand.
Yeah, so actually the cold, it was a very, very warm year. It was probably one of the warmest years in most people's recent memories. It was 19 degrees, but I was prepared for about 17, so that was what I was training for. The major obstacles, actually, those were really in the lead up to the swim. So I knew I needed to get better at tolerating the cold, which I did over the course of about 5 years. I knew there was going to be jellyfish. Again, I was very lucky on the day there weren't actually jellyfish there. And then, yeah, it's a long time in the water as well. So, I have to make sure that I've got everything organized and, all the feeds are going to go to plan. And I have to know in my head that if the swim takes longer than the time that I think I'm going to take, then I have to be prepared to stay in there and just stay the course.
What was it like when you finally touched land after all those hours?
It was great. It was a huge relief. But because it's such a long swim, you kind of see the situation evolve, as you go through. So it's not that when I hit the sand, I'm really surprised that I've done it, but really like from say about, half an hour before that, I knew I was getting close. I knew that the chance of me actually making it to land was very high. And then the last 15 minutes, when my coach got in to swim the last part with me, I knew at that point that I had it in the bag.
Can you run us through some of the lead up, I guess? How long have you been training for this crossing? What type of things did you have to do? You're from Singapore, you train in Hong Kong, so it's not exactly like you're training in cold water all year round.
Yeah, so the idea to start swimming the channel came about to me maybe, 4 or 5 years ago. So I was still living in the UK. So over summer, I would start swimming without a wetsuit, and the temperatures would go down to about 16. And then I moved to Hong Kong 3 years ago. I started doing winter swimming in Hong Kong without a wetsuit, and the temperatures would go to about 15, 16. So on the coldest weekend of winter, I would try to do like a 6 hour, which is the qualifying swim length for the English Channel solo. And a couple of years ago, after that winter, I realized that I had a very good chance of actually being able to do it. And that was when I signed up. And the real training with the volume, I started about 6 months before. So I started about March this year. And I was swimming every other week, maybe up to 35K. And then for 3 to 4 weeks during the last few months, I was swimming up to 45K a week. But I didn't set out to do this challenge to try to break a record, but it was a great bonus that I did to be the first Singaporean woman. I just wanted to test myself to see what I was actually capable of, especially with the cold, because that was something to me that seemed almost impossible, I think, when I started out 5 years ago.
And you were doing this also to raise money for a Hong Kong-based charity, Splash, which has just expanded to Singapore.
Yeah, that's right. So I actually am a volunteer swimming coach with Splash Foundation in Hong Kong. And I started there about 2.5, 3 years ago when I moved to Hong Kong. And what Splash Foundation does is that they provide completely free learn to swim programs for people from kind of under-resourced communities. So in Hong Kong, the students are mainly foreign domestic helpers. We've got children from low-income communities and then children with special needs as well. So I've been coaching the helpers all this time in Hong Kong. And it's really great. So with the publicity and the fundraising for my English Channel crossing, we've raised funds to actually expand Splash into Singapore. And we had our first class, beginner class for foreign domestic helpers on Sunday. And it seemed like, I think it was a big success.
Yeah, that's amazing. What have you learnt about, I guess, yourself from swimming, from doing all these long distance swims, and what do you hope to impart on the people that you're training at Splash in Hong Kong, and hopefully for the new swimmers in Singapore?
One of the things that I've taken away is that even something that seems impossible, if you give it some time and you're patient with it and you put in the work for it, it could be something that you can overcome. So for me, that was the call. And then the other thing is that I've never been a professional athlete and never been an elite athlete. And, it's just something that even someone like me, I have a day job, just an ordinary person, but we can all dream big and we can all try to do something that we think may not be possible to do. So I'm hoping that, the splashers will kind of have that spirit too. And many of them have actually shown us that they have that spirit already. We've had many splashers who started, being very, very scared of the water, never having put their heads underwater before. And we have people now in our open water class who swim, they can swim 150 meters in the sea confidently.
That's amazing. And what's your next big swim that you have coming up, or what's your next big challenge that you want to tackle now you've done the channel?
So I have to say that I really enjoy swimming. I've come from many different endurance sports in the last 10, 15 years or so, but I really, really enjoy swimming because it's always a new adventure. It's kind of you and the elements. It's not always against the clock. So definitely will be a big swim, but I haven't signed up yet. But, hopefully it'll be one of the other many iconic swims in the world, maybe outside of Asia.
Well, I think you have plenty of time now for a rest before your next big adventure. Thank you for your time, Li Ling.
Thanks very much for having me.